Good evening, everybody. My name is Pastor Conway Johnson. I want to welcome you to this episode of Let's Talk About It. And it's a special edition because it's our Black History Month edition. We want to do something a little bit different. Normally, during Black History Month, we set aside time and talk about notable people in our history, and rightfully so. Inventors, doctors, lawyers, and all of that good stuff. But as the times have changed, so has our processes of thinking and believing and teaching people. So we want to do something a little different with this segment of Let's Talk About It. And so tonight, as we begin our Black History Month edition, I want to first introduce our panelists, and then we will start our conversation tonight. I need everybody to start liking and sharing this, and I'm excited at what is getting ready to happen tonight. First, help me welcome Amani. Amani is a graduate of Centenary University. She has a double major in sports management, social media marketing. She is a campus recruiter for Northwestern Mutual and has plans in the future to obtaining her MBA. Everybody, welcome Amani. Wave Amani so everybody can see who you are. Next, we want to welcome Natasia. She is a graduate of Kean University with a bachelor in recreational therapy. She is also a recipient of a Bachelor of Science in Nursing from Rutgers University. She's a nurse at Capital Health in Hopewell, and she specializes in telemetry, neurology, and caring for cardiac patients. And I think I did say something wrong, but we'll get to all of that. She plans on attending Drexel University in the fall as a nurse practitioner, and she is also a sore loser in Uno, but we'll discuss that later. Also, we want to say welcome to Quiana. Quiana is a graduate from Morgan State. She has a bachelor's in social work. She is currently completing her master's in social work. She's a case manager at Shepherd Pratt, and she works with adults who are dealing and addressing their mental illness, health issues, and their substance abuse issues. Welcome, Quiana, tonight. Next, we want to welcome Shayna. She is a graduate from Montclair State. She has a bachelor's degree in psychology. She is currently pursuing a master's in counseling at Rutgers University. She is trained in social emotional learning and trauma care. Welcome, Shayna. And then finally, we want to welcome Simone. She has a bachelor's degree from Stockton University, a master's degree from Howard University. Her specialty is speech language pathology, and she works with various persons in that medical center. Welcome to all of you. Now, I have read those biographies the best I could. I'm pretty sure I messed something up along the way. So when you get an opportunity to speak, if I've said something wrong, you make it right what it is. And so there you have it. These are all educated Black women in various different fields. The fields that they have studied and mastered are life-changing fields. They are constantly on a day-to-day basis helping people be better emotionally, spiritually, and in their wellness and wealth. But the other thing that brings them all to the table, outside they are all women, outside they are all professionals, they are all college graduates, but they are all members of the very best church in the whole wide world, according to me, the Sharon Baptist Church in the city of New Brunswick. And so as we welcome them tonight, not only are they members of Sharon Baptist, but I was just looking over a few things, either their parents or their grandparents serve as leaders at the Sharon Baptist Church. Everybody out there, help me welcome our panelists tonight. Well, let's jump right into it. Let's talk about racism, classism, sexism. Let's talk about the past. Let's talk about the present. And let us talk about the future. So locally, last week in Bridgewater, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but there was an incident at Bridgewater Mall where two teenage boys got into a physical altercation. Now, the video I saw, and I'm not picking any sides, right is right and wrong is wrong. The one teenager of non-color, he pushed the young Black man, and then there was a physical altercation right in the mall. Shortly thereafter, The police arrived. The Caucasian teenager was told to have a seat, while the other two put the young black man face down on the ground in the mall, handcuffed him, while both of them put their knees in their back. In this day and time, when you see things like that, and here's what's crucial, this is right in our neck of the woods. This is no more than 20 minutes from where our church is. Was that racial profiling, or was the incident, is it being blown all out of control? Let's talk about it. What say you about that incident?
Well, I can't really, I'm going to speak based on what I heard because I didn't see the video myself, but I can only say that I do feel like it was racial profiling. I don't think it was fair that one person got to sit down and be talking to while the other person is on the ground. And I can't say I'm surprised at this point because this is a continuing situation that we've seen over and over through the years. But at this point, I just feel like I expected it. I'm not surprised. And that's also sad because I shouldn't have to expect that. I shouldn't have to know that that's what's going to happen. So I feel like if they're going to put people to the ground, it should have been both of them. And if they're going to sit somebody on the side and talk to them, it should have been both of them. It shouldn't have been one person got to do it this way and the other person got to do it that way. But at the end of the day, we're Black, so we are louder. We are more of a threat. So that's just what we have to deal with at this point.
Okay.
I guess I'd go off of that too. Like I saw it on the news, I guess the night that it happened. And I heard like apparently the kid, like he was actually in a middle schooler. So it's also kind of frustrating to add that point into it. Like, why are you doing that to a middle school kid, even if he is Black? Like, just pull them away from each other, like they do in school. Not that hard. Right. So it's like kind of frustrating. Like, you don't want to say like it's racial profiling in our neck of the woods because we don't really see that. It's not common. So to really like see that it's actually racial profiling 20 minutes away from us and they're doing that, it's kind of sad and like really ridiculous, actually. So.
Now, you did bring out a point that from what I've read from reputable news outlets is that the fight started because the Caucasian boy was actually bullying somebody who was younger, and that's how the altercation got started. That's how it got started. Mm-hmm. But like you're saying, this is, you know, we used to hear about these things in Minneapolis, we hear about in Texas, California, but this is right in our backyards. So do you feel a sense now that this being so close to home has put you in a different viewpoint of racial profiling?
I think for me, it made it more real because I have 3 brothers. So for me, that could have been my little brother if he was just hanging out at the mall with his friends and he so happened to try to break up the fight. The cops could have looked at it as he was the one in the altercation. And another thing was my niece actually attends school with the young boy that the cops put on the ground. So that made it, to me, it made it more real because that could have been my niece as well. And I feel like we as a people, we have been fighting more and like making it more known that it's not okay what the cops are doing. But I also think that cops are so stuck in their ways and stuck in the way that they police that they don't really see the wrong that they're doing within the community.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I was just gonna say I agree with Quiana. Like we try to like justify it and figure out why, but like when the cops came in from like with the video that I watched, they didn't know what happened. They walked in the middle. They saw that the other boy was on top of them, and they automatically went for the person of color. So it's kind of to a point where it doesn't matter what you did or what it looked like or what happened. You're the person of color. They're going to bring you to the ground and put their knee in your back.
Now, what if the roles were reversed? What if it were 2 Black officers and they did this to a white teenager? Would we have said anything? Or we would have just looked at it and looked the other direction?
I think I still would have said something because it's a child.
Yeah.
Okay. But then you're saying race wouldn't have mattered in that situation.
I think from that child's parents, it would have, and for other white Americans, I think they would have like tried to twist the narrative but I also don't think that the black cops would have taken the boy down, because I just think in their mindset they would have thought by taking down, the repercussions of what I did would be a lot bigger than, the situation.
Hmm.
I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Like, if the tables were reversed, I would be like, I would do. I do. Honestly, I'm not even gonna lie. That's really how I'd be like, dang, that sucks. But it wouldn't hit here. Like, it wouldn't. I would just be like, wow, must hurt, right? Mm.
Our own personal opinions are what they are, and they're based on reality. So when you look at our reality, and I'm not playing the race card, I'm just looking at the times that we live in, and also the time frame of what our people endured culturally, that these kind of things weren't all that long ago. So when you start seeing them in headlines, in particular in our backyard, I think it starts to create feeling. So I said, if you flip the script, and the truth of the matter is, there are situations that we see every day that I feel that we are almost forced to look from the perspective from Black America. But a lot of people are now saying that Black America plays the race card too often. What say ye to that, about we play the race card too often?
I would say it's definitely just kind of, a cop out or an excuse, because, they feel like what our feelings are not valid, or they just think that, we're so strong and able, to endure these years of just abuse and different things. So I think it's just an excuse, to kind of make themselves, feel better, to keep, belittling our people and the trauma that we've been through for years and years. It's just, more publicized now.
Right. Now that you see things on video,
Yep.
And not just video, but real time. See, you all probably were younger when Rodney King was beaten,
Yeah.
and then we saw the videotape times later. But nowadays, with cell phone cameras, we are seeing stuff now that we would never see. So last year, there was a police officer in the Midwest named Kim Porter who accidentally shot a teenage Black man. She says that she was trying to tase him, but accidentally pulled her gun out and shot him. And she was recently sentenced, and she was sentenced to 2 years in prison. The race card issue is coming up, that they're saying that because she's a white woman, that she got away with it. But now let's put Black and white aside. Do you think that was really an accident, or do you think that was racially motivated, and why?
I just don't know how you can mix up a taser and a gun and you're a police officer. I feel like that's something every officer knows. So it's like, it's hard to really say like that's an accident. Like, you should know which is which, But
So you're saying that was no accident?
no, it could be. I don't want to say that, but it's like, you're trained to do this. You can't really mix that up. Like, come on. I don't know. It was frustrating to hear that, because I don't know how people really can mix that up at all.
2 years.
Especially for only 2 years to go to jail for that. Like, it will, like, if it was us, it would definitely be life or much longer than that. So
yeah. Anybody else? Well, let's keep it moving. So I recently read this story, and I'm just gonna bounce around. I recently read a study, and the study was done by Hart, McElroy, and Bryan. And the study topic was, why are so many Black women single? And the conclusion of the study of why are so many Black women single, the answer is this: that Black women are just lazy. What say you to this? Is that why so many Black women are single?
I'll take a stab at it. That's really interesting terminology, the word lazy that they chose, to use. I said, I'm just, recently married over a year now. I'm 28. Yeah, so I said, I do have some friends that are kind of single and going through different things, but from what they explained to me is that it's just very hard to find people nowadays that are just genuine and trusting, especially, with social media, just trying to determine everyone's intentions. So I don't know if the word per se is lazy, could just be that people are intimidated or they just know that, women are, wanting to deal with a lot of foolishness.
So it has nothing to do with the pull of prospective Black men.
I mean, it's also the saying like how we are all like very independent. So we can do things for our own selves. So I don't think laziness is that. So it could be covering up that point of view so people don't say that we're actually good for ourselves, independent.
Oh,
But
covering up.
For sure. I
so
feel
I think it's kind of a little excuse.
like back in the day, people like a lot of women stayed at home and they depended on their men to do everything pretty much, bring home the money and everything.
Mhm.
So now we all are having our own jobs, being independent, can survive on our own. We don't need a man. I mean, it's, be nice, but don't need them. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think our independence kind of pushes men away. I think also some men, within my generation, I would say, they still kind of have the mindset of like they want to be the provider and they want to kind of be more dominant. But I think us as women nowadays, I think we still will accept a man that wants to provide, but we also want them to know that if you were to leave today, I can still handle taking care of my own. And if I have children with you, I can take care of my kids without you as well. So I think that kind of scare men away at times.
I agree kind of what everybody said. I think it's the exact opposite of lazy. Like Black women are like pursuing education, different careers, they're following their dreams, finding things that they want to do and what makes them happy. So I think it may be like the opposite of lazy. Maybe the term like go-getter or something like that is a little more intimidating than lazy.
Wow. So just two things. So am I hearing that Black men are intimidated by educated Black women who know what they want and can get it for themselves?
Absolutely.
Because we're not going to accept anything. And I think some men are just used to being able to have a woman that's just going to accept. And I feel like now we're just not going to do that because we know our worth and we know what it is that we want. So we're not going to take anything less. And some men, that intimidates them. So, you're lost.
Yeah.
So then secondly, how does it make you feel that another Black woman said that?
She's lazy.
What?
Maybe she's lazy.
It's an interesting concept of I think the age, and even not culture, just the age of a person, of once upon a time ago that it was the goal to get married and have a family. But now women nowadays, is that the goal? I don't hear too many women of a certain age who are saying that I want to get married and have a family. It's more about me being me. Has it changed, or these Black men are scared of independent Black women?
I think it's changed a little bit, but I feel like now women are more into going to school and, getting their degrees and starting their education. But then I feel like at a certain point, if that's your desire, I think it's just happening, a little bit later, probably now I would say late, 20s, early 30s kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're happily married. A pandemic marriage. I might say that. We say congratulations to you. So when we look at couples today, so my wife and I, we have the experience that we were teenagers in the same church, and now we're married. So you very rarely hear that. So in that, there was always some type of involvement of what we'll call matchmaking. How do women these days and times feel about so-called matchmaking?
I kind of met my husband through matchmaking through my aunt, actually, because him and my cousin Kareem, they played on the same football team in college. And my aunt kind of thought that we would be compatible. So she was actually right in that way. But I haven't heard a story like that in a long time. So I don't know how others feel about that.
It's rare. So if we were to be in a situation where, let's say your parents or tried to matchmake, how do you feel about that? I know they watch it. I prefer Natasha not answer this question.
That's all I have to say. No.
That's a no. You not interested?
Yeah, I would say no.
No.
I think I'll be open to it, but if it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. I'm not going into it thinking I'm going to get married to you, but I think I'll give you the opportunity to have a conversation with me and see where that goes.
Okay. So I'll say this and we'll move on. And I'm asking this for a friend. How would you feel if your pastor were to matchmake? I'm asking for a friend. Yeah,
No.
maybe. No. Okay. Well, the next subject. So, when we look at your educational accomplishments, it's really wow. Say congratulations to you. And then when I look at what areas that you have chosen and that you work in, and the impact that you are having on people and their emotional wellness, their physical abilities, there's a term in corporate America called tone policing. Have you ever heard of that? Tone policing is a term, it's the politically correct term of angry or mad Black women. That mad Black women now get the term of a need of tone policing. That the mentality of believing is that every Black woman, when she speaks up for herself, she is portrayed as being this angry Black woman. Have you ever in your prospective careers felt that you've been tone policed because you spoke up about a situation?
At least my field, speech language pathology, it's not a very diverse field. So it's about 8% represents minority.
Mm-hmm.
So very small, it's a very large white woman populated field. Right. So I don't know if I've necessarily felt that, but especially going to Howard, we were always prepared, to present ourselves in a certain way. Because, it's like the moment you go in here, they're judging you by your name, they're judging you by how your hair is. So I don't know particularly if I've experienced that, but I'm always, constantly something I'm thinking about. Especially when you have to, be firm or speak up, about things at work that are going on or you feel aren't fair. It's just a thought, that I always have in my mind, that they are anticipating that reaction from you.
Right. So Imani, in your field of work, and I know you're very quiet, do you feel that if and when you speak up, the tone police, are we coming for you?
Honestly, where I am working right now, it doesn't feel like that kind of environment.
Okay.
So I'm really lucky to have that. Like where I work at Northwestern Mutual, like at least in our office, everyone's really like family oriented, I guess you can say.
Good.
So everyone like hears everyone out. No one really kind of acts in that kind of manner. So I'm really happy that I have a good job that's like that. But I'm pretty sure like if I did, if COVID didn't happen and I did get a job in the sports industry and worked in like a professional sports organization, probably would have encountered that. But right now I'm lucky to not have to deal with that. But yeah.
So when you look at this mentality that people see, tone policing, these mad Black women, I started to get the question, where did this all come from? Why do people think that when a Black woman speaks up for herself, she's angry or she's getting ready to set it off? So I kind of looked at of the Black women that we see. So when I was coming up, like the impact of Black women on TV, you had people like Claire Huxtable, who was a lawyer. You had Florida Evans, Weezy Jefferson, they were homemakers. You had Aunt Viv, who did what she did. And then in the early 90s, the Black women on TV, they were professional women. They were women in school doing better. But now when you look on TV, it looks like 90% of the Black women on TV are setting it off every chance that they get. So, you know, shows like Real Housewives of Atlanta, the ones with the women in the Potomac, Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, every week, every episode is this showing. Did that have anything to do with it?
I think that people are so used to Black women kind of staying behind the scenes, not really saying what's on their mind, not really being able to have a full opinion. That kind of goes back to being intimidated by like the Black women that, you know, they have an opinion, they have thoughts, you know, they have education, they're able to provide for themselves. So, I mean, I think they're used to like Black women not having a voice. So when they actually speak up for themselves, it comes off as aggressive or an attitude or angry or bitter. But I think it's just really, they're not used to us saying what we have to say and speaking up for themselves, speaking up for ourselves and being prideful. I think that's really what it goes back to, is they're used to Black women staying behind the scenes and not giving, you know, their opinion.
Okay. Anyone
I
else?
also think the shows that you were just naming, they depict us in a negative lighting because like Love and Hip Hop, they highlight the fights more than they do when women actually sit down and have a conversation. So I think for people like with that mindset, they only see us in that way. They don't see us when we're sitting down and discussing or standing up for things that we know aren't right. Like the moment our tone gets a little loud, they think that like it's aggression and anger and all of that, but it's really just us expressing our feelings about whatever the situation may be.
So when a Black woman is starting all of this and doing all that, she's just expressing herself. She really ain't angry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So interesting enough, when you talk about Black women, those roles, and then when you look at Black women who are millennials, listen to this number. Black women in your age group earn 60% in your field of average of what your white counterparts earn. Did you realize that?
I've been aware of that for some time. Like I said, when I was going through a graduate program, you know, they would tell us, make sure, you know, you ask around and find out what that other person is making, you know, don't let them, you know, pay you less. So I've always been aware of it. I've met other, you know, speech pathologists saying, you know, they have the same experience as another clinician, you know, find out that they're making, you know, less than them for no reason. So I will say too, it's also helped with just, you know, having that open dialogue, you know, about salary and pay and different things, you know, to make sure you're not being taken advantage of and they're paying you your worth. So I feel like that also, you know, has kind of been a generational difference, you know, discussing salary and pay and those things, at least, you know, in my field, definitely people are very open about that.
Well, one of the things I was always taught, you know, from like 17 looking at a job is that you don't go making demands, you get what they take you. And now here's your age category, 60%. So I want you to start looking at your coworkers. I don't want you to go to work tomorrow, angry Black woman, and set it off. But I mean, how does that make you feel that in this 2022, and that's at 60% of what your other counterparts are making? What are you going to do about it? Set it off. No. I think the valuable lesson is that if you don't know your worth and can't explain your worth, other people won't do it. And so a lot of times I think people really don't know the value that they have. And the value is just not the education that you have, but it's who you are coming to the table. And so when you get the educational, and then you heighten what you have to bring to the table and what you have to offer, then I think we can put ourselves in a better situation. But I think it's discouraging knowing that that number is at the 60% marker in this day and time, in this day and time. So that's enough about millennials in the workplace. Let's talk about the Black Lives Matter movement. So 2 summers ago, right at the heart of the pandemic, I mean, the Black Lives Matter moved like wildfire. And it had such an impact that we even have neighbors around here on their lawn, and we don't even have one. They have a Black Lives Matter sign on their front lawn. So when I look at what was going on, and when I look at what was going on years ago with the civil rights movement, what's the difference? Can you explain to me why didn't we revert back to the civil rights movement, all this, and the emergence of Black Lives Matter? What's the difference? Why are millennials embracing that and not civil rights?
I think it too has a lot to do, with social media. Everything is publicized. So, like you said, the heart of the pandemic, everybody was home, everyone's on their phone. And, this is just being, there was no way that you could miss it. It was everywhere. And I don't know, I would say, I guess people, just wanted to be more active. Maybe it was something they could relate with more, like I was saying, because it was on social media. And I mean, too, I remember watching all the protests, on CNN. And I did see, a lot of young people, especially out, in DC and my area that were protesting. But I would just say, being more accessible kind of made people, and want to be more active in it probably than before.
I had watched like a clip from the lady who created Black Lives Matter. And she said it started as a hashtag. And at that time, hashtags were like a big thing during the pandemic. And she said, like Black Lives, that just caught like so much attention. And I know with our age group, like a lot of us were like so in tune with like what was going on, the latest story, because it seemed like during the pandemic, it was like story after story after story. So then we all were like, all right, enough is enough. Let's get out here and protest. But then I also think some people that did join our protest, they were there with the wrong intention, and they kind of took like what the protest was for, and they turned it into something else, which kind of went back and depicted like us just being angry and mad and raging and things like that. Like it heightened that mindset for certain protests because of the way that they were like destructing property and things of that nature.
I think with it kind of being, especially during the pandemic, story after story after story, it kind of forced people to take a stance. Like you couldn't sit back and ignore it. You kind of had to say either I'm like for it or against it, or I have no opinion. It forced like stores and department stores to start releasing statements. I remember my job, I was working a corporate job at the time. They released a statement. They had to, you had to either support it or go against it. So I think the publicity made everybody kind of, it helped you kind of see where everybody stands of what are your thoughts, what are your take, how's everybody feeling about it? It kind of made everybody kind of say what they were going to do and how they were feeling.
Okay. So where's it at now? I haven't heard anything, and I'm not knocking. I haven't heard anything about any new movements. In fact, about 2 days ago, Amazon's charity parted ways with the Black Lives Matter movement about a discrepancy in money that had been raised for charity. Was it a pandemic thing, or where's it at now?
I mean, it's kind of sad to say, but I think, it kind of might just be waiting for, the next big case, the next one to make everybody go outside and start marching again the next time, a Black man or Black woman is put on the ground with a knee in the back. So, I mean, I think that's really, what it is. They're waiting for the publicity. It's easy to kind of sit back now because things have been quiet, but I mean, it's never really over. I'm sure it'll be coming around again, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say it's just exacerbated by the media. So depending on what's going on, that's when you'll see them. And right now, thankfully, I mean, maybe it's a good thing that we're not hearing anything, because that means,
The life is gone.
Right. So
It's been kind of quiet, but then this situation pops up right in our backyard. Yeah.
I know the other situation a couple weeks back, another of the no knock warrants where they shot the wrong person. I mean, that one I feel like, didn't get as much media attention as one in the past, but I think everybody's starting to become immune. They're used to it, like, oh, another one of these. So it's just our sad reality.
It is that it really has become the norm to see these things. A part of the piece that people had a problem with was the concept of defunding the police. And so I think sometimes people get it twisted that just because we feel that way doesn't mean that we are anti-police. So when you look at the situation in Bridgewater, that doesn't make me anti-police, because I really do believe in all. There's good and then there's bad. But I think the motives start to come in question when you see that it is always brown and Black people who are in these situations. So when we look at Black Lives Matter, let's go back to the civil rights movement and how that was birthed and the energy that created, which was not too long ago. Do you feel that we are progressing, or do you feel we are pretty much in the same situation? And when I say same situation, we have some liberties and luxuries, but look, everything that we've talked about has said this, is that still Black women are being held back. Still Black women are being labeled. Still Black women are counted out. So if the civil rights movement made an impact, where are our rights now? Do you feel like things have gotten better? And we're just talking about Black women in America, because Black men in America is a whole nother conversation. But what about for the sisters? Where do you feel that you are at right now?
I feel like it's better, but we still have work to do and work to put in. But I mean, now we at least have a voice that would be heard. I feel like in those times, our voice was nothing. It was kind of up to our husbands at the time to speak up. And at that time, they weren't being listened to either. So now I feel as though we have more of a voice, but we still have a lot of work to do when it comes to America.
A lot of work. Anybody else?
I agree with what Quiana is saying. Definitely, have made some progress, but, definitely still a long ways to go. Like you said, discrimination, that kind of glass ceiling with the pay difference. Same thing. It's just the issues are still there, but we're just becoming a little more aware of it. But definitely, progress can still be made.
You talk about progress. When you go to do something, then you get labeled as this mad Black woman because you spoke up about what was going on. So we're going to start to wind things down and lighten the load a little bit. Let's talk about music on our culture. Let's talk about how music has impacted on our culture. So music now is totally different. Rap music now from when I was a teenager is it's on a whole nother level. Is like our teenagers, and Quiana, you had mentioned your brother, is the music influencing the culture too much?
I really think it depends on the child and how like the child is being raised. Like I feel like my little brother is listening to like Little Baby, and they're talking about drugs, guns, violence, blah, blah, blah. But I think he also understands that although it's in the song, it's not, I don't need to make that my reality to be where Little Baby is or where Little Dirk is and things of that nature. So I really think it comes from like, I get it's broadcasted, it's highlighted, and that's all of those celebrities have so much money, and that's kind of a lot of people's goal in life anyway, to be wealthy. But I think if you're getting raised right, you're getting taught right, the stuff that you see, like you're not gonna try to chase after the negative if you are learning right from wrong at home.
I
So you say, I'm sorry, that the music isn't influencing the culture too much then?
No.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I think it kind of does influence the culture a little bit, the gangs, the violence, the drugs. I mean, it's not every single person. I listen to the music and, I'm able to kind of just listen to it for fun. But people see these rappers and the lifestyles they live and they want to imitate it. And I mean, and then it makes it kind of hard to separate it. Like I remember I was in with my students last weekend and they were like just doing work and I wanted to play music in the background. They were requesting all these songs and like I couldn't find a single clean song to even play for the classroom. So I mean, it affects everything we do. I had to play Michael Jackson because that was the only thing I could really think back to. It was appropriate music that wasn't influencing all this behavior. I mean, it's not the music isn't the worst. I mean, it's kind of the music has changed as our society has changed, but I mean, it's a reality that like students will, and especially younger people, are trying to imitate what they see these rappers doing and saying.
And I think the disclaimer is that all of this stuff is for entertainment purposes only. It's because I remember one time we were in Atlanta, staying at a hotel, and young Jock was staying at the same hotel. So when we were waiting for our car to be pulled around, he gets in this beat up, raggedy car, and people not knowing that the stuff on those shows, a lot of times they're renting that stuff. But the falseness of it, I think, is impacting, that kind of music is impacting that some of these teenagers are seeing these fantasies, and that's really not these people's realities. Because that's like some of the stuff that, like the music now, and things are different. There was no way in the world that I would have been able to allow to be listening to music like that, because so much has changed. Now, everybody has their own different tastes. Certain people, and I'm not mentioning no names because one of them's on here, says that all the music I listen to sounds like funeral music, but that if the music is impacting the culture, how do you change it? Because the music to me is getting worse. So they really don't have videos. Like when I see stuff on Instagram and Facebook, and y'all don't want to be friends with the pastor on Instagram. Some of the stuff I'm like, oh my God. But these are 12, 13, 14-year-olds listening to it. How do you create the shift of showing them that this is for entertainment purposes only?
I think I agree with Quiana that it starts at home. I feel like you can't shelter them from it either, because at the end of the day, when they go to school, their friends gonna be listening to it. Somebody's gonna be listening to it. So I feel like you can't shelter them. Of course, that it's gonna impact them in some type of way, but it really does start at home. And I feel like as like at my age now, like what I listen to is purely for entertainment. I know reality. I know what it's like to live in this world. I know these people don't have all this stuff. Like it's obvious to me, but at a young age, I really did believe like that I can do that. Like I can get that. Obviously the music wasn't as bad as it is now. I don't want to say bad, but like explicit as it is now. And now literally all they talk about is drugs, sex, money. Like, and I feel like these kids now, that's all they think about too. So I feel like you can't eliminate it from their lives, but I really feel like parents at home really have to have a strict say, like around me, you know better, you're not listening to that around me. Like what you do with your little friends or whatever, but it needs to be like, some type of boundary there.
Absolutely. So as we wrap music up, what do you all, now I don't watch professional sports at all. I think it's just totally boring. So here, the only thing on was the Super Bowl. So when the halftime show came on, that was my kind of music. So like the day after, 50 Cent is fat shamed. I mean, nobody, I know I ain't the same size I was 10 years ago. What is the world coming to when 50 Cent is being fat?
He's $1 now, not 50 cents.
I must be $1.50 then. I ain't saying that. Wow, I just thought I was so blown out of the water by that this whole fat shaming, this whole thing that millennials do, and I say millennials, cancel culture, that if we don't like it, we shut it down. What do you say to people who say millennials are too easily offended?
I just feel like we're just more opinionated these days. I feel like everybody has an opinion about everything. I mean, I like the halftime show too, but I was shocked that Dr. Dre was on there because he has a checkered past. So I'm like, oh, so he hasn't been canceled. So cancel culture is always very interesting to me. Like I said, these are things that I think about. I said, so it's okay for him to be on here, but they'll cancel somebody else, the next day over, anything. So just as social media opinions, I think are just very interesting these days.
So now Dr. Dre, there
Yeah.
was a discrepancy about the lyrics about something about LAPD that he wasn't supposed to do, but he did it anyway.
Mhm. He's been accused of abuse in his past, so that's why I was shocked that he was able to be on there. But like I said, I guess they kind of pick and choose, who's canceled and who's not. So he's, not.
It's all about that money.
Mhm.
Yeah, true. So
About their money.
yeah.
So now, like, there's talk of the Cosby Show getting cut off TV again, because of Bill Cosby. So the whole cancel culture thing is interesting. So I'm gonna say this, and then if you all want to say something after we answer this next question, we'll talk about it. So the pandemic did a lot, and one of the things, it had an impact on church as we know it. So our church, for the first time in 100 years, our church was closed, and we went to a point where everything that we could do was on social media. And the funny thing is that pastors of a certain age, kind of my range, prior to this, they were bashing Facebook. They were saying, it was the work of the enemy. But now you turn on Facebook, you can go to church anywhere on social media now. So let's talk about our church. So our church has a large population of people over the age, I'll say 60, a large population. But not only is a large population, but it's also a very active population. And when I say 60, we have members in their 90s who are active members. So one of the things, when I was reading your bios, with all with the exception of one, is everybody sang in the youth choir at some point or another. And if you didn't, you were a junior usher. So now that the age of virtual church is here, and now in our church, there's a window of millennials. And when I looked last time, a few weeks ago, I was thinking that the millennials in our church were a teeny tiny group, but in actuality, you guys make up probably about 15% of our congregation. I was blown out of the water by that number. And so now when we look at virtual church, and we're actually on a hybrid that you can come or you can watch online, Resurrection Sunday 2020, the number of people in attendance in worship at Sharon Baptist Church virtually, anybody got any ideas how much that was?
200.
Yeah, like 200. That's awesome.
1,600.
Whoa.
Those were our numbers. Resurrection Sunday, from a virtual audience. And so our virtual audience continues to grow. So now let's talk about your age or age range. So obviously nobody here qualifies to sing in the youth choir. I think now millennials aren't excited about saying, I sang in the choir. I think none of you are eager to go to the uniform store to get a uniform so you can be an usher at the Sharon Baptist Church. Let's talk about you and ministry. What do you see as ministry? And here's why I'm asking, because you guys are responsible for the generation coming behind you. You're responsible. So when I look at
Oh,
I can't hear you.
Your
Your
Wait,
speaker
audio
went
went
out.
out.
I don't think you can hear us. Your speaker went out.
I don't know why we can't hear him.
I see
Yeah.
something on
Oh, there.
Oh, there you go.
here. Can you all see that about AirPods?
Uh-uh.
No,
No.
that's yours.
AirPods. See, that's why I don't mess with that stuff. And you know, Tay, text your mother and tell her to leave her AirPods alone. Especially, where do you see you in tell me what you think, and I'm not going to use youth ministry, what young adult ministry should look like at Sharon Baptist Church?
Well, I'll say, you know, growing up in the church, when I think back on it, I have like great memories of like being in the youth choir, the junior choir, vacation Bible school. I said, I think about it, you know, all the times and the laughs and like, you know, people we grew up with from, you know, children until now. I would say though, just for millennials, I think the dynamic of worship has kind of changed. Like, for example, my husband's church to me is like a millennial church. It's completely dressed down. So it's a very casual church. Even like the praise and worship is more, I don't know how to explain. I guess not, just more a little bit fast paced. They have like their quick, like, you know, hour services, they're in and out, and maybe they do like 3 a day. So I feel like with millennials, people are just, you know, always kind of just on the go. And I think they were virtual before COVID. So I would say, I guess millennials now, they're looking for virtual. They want something, you know, kind of upbeat. Like I said, it's kind of just come as you are. And they have a pretty big membership. So those are some of the things that, you know, I kind of noticed that was attracting, I guess, you know, a younger generation to the church that, you know, he was attending.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like feeling some kind of way because I wore a 3-piece suit this morning, but we'll
Oh, that's okay.
that's just my style. Just my
Well, I was
style.
kind of taken back. I'm like, you can wear jeans to your church? I'm like, I'm not used to that.
Like, I know, you know, we don't have rules
Yeah.
like that, but I just think, you know, especially you have a certain age,
Yeah.
that this is how
You come.
we come to church. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
so I
feel
wasn't used to it.
I feel like it's different when you're raised in the church versus like just
Yeah.
going to church, like used to like this kind of thing, because like being raised in church, like you wear a skirt, you wear stockings, like all that stuff. So definitely when I go into church wearing jeans or something, I still feel a little
Yeah, and you feeling a little
I mean, like
uncomfortable.
I'm getting used to it because that's how it is now. And when you do go, like you don't have to, you know, wear certain things anymore. But I mean, I guess that's just how it is now. But for me, it's a little weird.
I agree. I mean, it's kind of hard to make changes for like, you know, what appeals to like millennials and then not losing like the things we kind of like. I agree kind of with Simone. Like I have a lot of great memories, you know, as a child in church. Like, I mean, till this day, I don't know if you guys remember Mrs. Marshall, like if you wore a skirt above the knee, I mean, you owed her a quarter. So like, she's like, find your parents, get a quarter. So the whole like dress code thing, I mean, I guess is, you know, kind of being able to, I guess church has always been come as you are. You always know you can come as you are, but I guess some people kind of don't really feel like they can come as they are.
Right.
Where, I mean, now since COVID, you know, we've been a lot more casual, but I guess in the next like 20 years or so, people, you know, probably may not want to dress up for church. Like Simone said, everybody's on the go. They want to run in, run out, and then go where they're going afterwards. So I don't know if that kind of takes away the respect for church or I don't know.
I also think even when like church is like back to, well, I don't think church will ever be like back to the capacity of what it used to be, like the whole in-person thing. But I think that it should always be virtual, because for those that like work or just don't feel like getting out of bed that day, I think being able to just turn on your phone and click on Facebook and being able to feel as though you're in church, I think that would also be something that millennials need.
Yeah.
It's the whole virtual church experience.
Agreed.
Especially virtual church. Like even if you're not home, you're still able, like I like being able to log into church. If like, if you couldn't make Sunday service or something, you're still able, or if I can watch it later if I was doing something during church time. So I guess, maybe not that church needs to be a convenience, but I guess making it's been more convenient over the last 2 years.
Right. So like right now, our Sunday worship is probably at just off the top of my head, probably at 200 views. And the views are captured by an amount of time they watch. So by the time we get ready for worship, it's gonna be 5 or 6. So it's like the convenience of not locked in to a certain time. But when you look at the generation behind you, what do you think as far as ministry? How do we minister to them? And when I say minister, I'm not talking about the do this, don't do that. How do we give them God that they can see, feel, and understand God? Because they are not going to have the opportunity to, come to choir rehearsal. I think a lot of that is gone. They are not going to have the opportunity of, we were in the VBS class from the time we were 5 to 15. Tell me, how are we? And when I say we, because the responsibility is yours to minister. And I tell you why, is because I'm not old, and I'm not claiming old, but I'm older than you are. We talk 2 different languages. And so when you look at teenagers now, and every teenager did it. When I was 15, I thought people for 40 were old. Everybody, we talk 2 different languages. So when our teenagers, there's such a disconnect between me, because they see me as being old, the old man with the suits. And one of the things I hate is when old people try to act young. It bothers me. You tell me, the responsibility is yours because you speak the language. Tell me real quick, and we're going to get ready to go. What can we do? What are we going to offer the next generation as far as ministry?
I feel like we have to kind of relate to them a lot more and incorporate God in the things that they enjoy. So like tying back to the music, like I'm not saying let's play Little Baby in church, but kind of like during little sessions, kind of, I'm not gonna say break down the lyrics, but like, I don't really know how to explain it, but I just feel like we have to incorporate God into more things that they do. So maybe even like sporting events and things like that, like just get on their level and incorporate God in that in some way, shape, or form. I think because they'll be more accepting of it and more transparent of what you're trying to, like explain to them.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think what Quiana said is a good point. Definitely music. Some millennials are just very techy. Not exactly, like a podcast, or maybe, like, I don't know, motivational text that can be sent out, or just something, like I said, that can be on the go, but maybe a text with a Bible verse or something sent out, during the day, because everybody, always has their phone with them. So maybe just trying to reach in different capacities, but, it'll still always be with you, because, teenagers are always going to have their phone on them. So that could be like an option.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
you
I
don't
agree.
think to feel forced either. Like back in the
Yeah.
day, I feel like it seemed forced. A lot of the things that we did, like we had to go to Bible study, we had to go to this place and that place. And we were at church every day of the week, it felt like. So I feel like now, since times have changed, definitely incorporating things that, like Simone and Quiana said, definitely like the tech, that sounds good. At least they get some type of God throughout the day, throughout their days. But yeah, we should definitely look into stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree as well. Like the whole podcast thing too, that's honestly something that I do. Like some days when I drive to work in the morning, I just listen to podcasts. There's one that I listen to, Bible Stories with Brianda. She basically goes through every chapter, each podcast, and like reads verses, but also relates it to what's going on today or in her own life as well. So definitely social media plays a big part in that. So if we could somehow figure out a way to have Sharon Baptist be a part of like TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff to get all the millennials' attention, definitely think that would be a great way to get started and build those like podcasts and things like that. So
I I think the podcasts are actually a really good idea, like when you said it, because I listen to them sometimes too. But even finding a way to incorporate the younger members into it, find a podcast,
Yeah.
something they can speak about, or even like kind of like the panel like we have now, something for them, let the younger people, let them bring their own topic, what they want to discuss, different things they find interesting, or different things they they may be going through. So they can feel like they kind of have an input, something to kind of look forward to, bring a friend, invite a friend, different things like that.
So I'm like trying to like a podcast. That's like when you, oh my God. What is like a topic that you
Yeah, it's like a
Something
topic.
like this.
Yeah, some of,
Yeah.
So you're
Mhm.
not like, you're not seeing
you
most of
don't
the
see the
time.
people.
You're just hearing them.
It's just
Just
your
listen
voice.
to it. Kind of like an
Audio.
audio book, but just you
Yeah.
talking.
You see
Yeah.
the disconnect already?
Yeah.
I've heard of it. Okay. All right. Well, listen, thank you. That's all I have. Does anybody, you have anything you want to say? Anything before we go? I really thank you guys for participating tonight. Anybody have anything?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Yep,
thank
for
you.
having
It was nice. It was nice to
Glad-
see faces. I feel like I haven't
I
seen
know.
anyone.
I know.
This is the face, the faces and the future of the Sharon Baptist Church. So it encourages me that even though we have our churches, this year is going to celebrate 102 years of existence. And so this is refreshing tonight to see women, to see Black women, to see educated and professional, and even women who are saved, but I believe can set it off if need. Well,
You're
that's
right
all our
about
time
that one.
tonight. Thank you so much. And I look forward in the future to doing something like this real soon. So that being said, wave good night and goodbye to everybody.
Bye, everyone.